Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems, and with me is Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute.
Have you ever held a grudge? Did your life improve because of it? I'm guessing not so much. Granting forgiveness is a freeing endeavor. This includes some of our failures and mistakes. If you tune us out, I forgive you, as Bill and I discussed practicing forgiveness and other important ideas on episode 499 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
$4.99. That means next week is our 100th podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
So
milestone.
we have an exciting guest next week, but we'll hold off on that. And
stay tuned.
Yeah, that's right. But I do have some exciting personal news, Scott. I'm a grandfather again for the second time. Last night.
Fabulous.
I guess early this morning, about 5 o'clock, my granddaughter, Lucy Marie, was born. So now name. I can say all the time, Lucy, that's explaining to do.
What's the song? In the Sky,
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah. Okay.
That was old Elton John.
Yeah.
Elton John covered it, but it was originally a Beatles song.
That's what I thought.
That's right. The Beatles song, but I was an Elton John guy, so I remember Elton John doing it.
Okay.
So.
I don't know the background of that song, who Lucy is.
I think it's supposed to be a drug song. So thanks a lot for bringing that up about my granddaughter.
Man. The association. Sorry.
I forgive you.
Oh, thank you.
You get that?
Off to a good start.
That was pretty good. Well, we're going to talk about forgiveness here in a minute. But before we do, we have our book club. We just started The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. We did in part 1, principles 1 through 5. There's 24 principles in part 1. And Scott and I are going to take a couple of these and talk about them. I want to talk about the first one. And this is one that's important to Scott. The first one is take 100% responsibility for your life. What do you say about that, Scott? Is that good?
I totally agree with that. My first chapter in my book, Taking Off into the Wind, is on commitment. And I just love how he started the book, and he kind of echoed the 100% responsibility in the introduction, and he followed up in the first chapter.
Yeah, good stuff. It's really talking about quit blaming everybody else for the problems in your life. Yes, people do have an effect on you, but it's your response to those situations that's going to tell what you do. And so look to your own actions, see what you did that participated in that failure, that mistake, that error, and then change.
Yeah. Can I share a story on where I learned personal accountability? I remember the moment that commitment and personal accountability came over me. And it was in 1996 when I went through ground school to get my private pilot's license. The very first day, the instructor said to all of us, as the pilot, you are the PIC, pilot in command, which means you are 100% responsible for the safety and operation of this aircraft at all times. If anything ever went wrong, you cannot blame the weather, another pilot, the tower, or the aircraft manufacturer. And there was a wave of accountability that came over me that I had never felt before. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to take responsibility for everything that I did and didn't do, and when I thought and when I didn't think, and not blame others for my failures and misfortunes. Because if I blame others for my failures and misfortunes, there's no reason to change, because I'm blaming others and I can't control my own life. And that is kind of the same thing that Jack Canfield talked about in the first chapter, is commitment. Take responsibility for everything that you do.
That's right. Yeah. When we start to blame other people, then it takes that pressure off of us to make those changes that are going to improve us. And yes, other people do affect your life. People do stupid things. Somebody runs into the side of your car, blah, blah, blah. There's things that happen in your life, but how do you respond? He has a little formula. Yeah. He calls it E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals the outcome. So how do you respond to that event can change the outcome. Do you get upset? Do you start to make it worse? Some people I see, I've had this situation. I see friends do this. They're walking down the street. This is a metaphor, kind of gross, but they're walking down the street. They see a pile of poop. They step in it. And then they look at their shoe and they go, how'd this poop get on my shoe?
Okay. Wow. Amazing.
They do that. They look at their life. They see a stupid thing to do. They do it. And then they say, who caused me to do this stupid thing in my life? Who caused me to? Nobody. You saw it coming. You had to be absolutely blind to make that decision and do it anyway. And now you're looking for somebody else to blame. Stop blaming others. Look at yourself. Quit making dumb decisions. That you're the one that chose to pick up the cigarette. You're the one that chose to eat 5 helpings of ice cream. You're the one that chose to not get your work done on time. You're the one who chose to delay answering that phone call till it became a problem. Those are all choices that you made. Quit blaming others for them. So I like to take 100% responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
I remember a poster, John Wayne was climbing a rocket Iwo Jima or something, and it said, life is tough. It's tougher if you're stupid.
Yeah. That's so
and
true.
if you go out making stupid mistakes, your life's going to get a lot tougher.
So it reminds me of the difference between arrogance and ignorance. And arrogant is, I know everything I need to know. And ignorant is, what I don't know doesn't matter. And we need to be able to not be arrogant or ignorant, and we need to be curious. And I think as salespeople, one of the goals of a phone call is to create interest and curiosity.
Right.
And that takes a commitment of focus in doing that. I do some work with real estate agents. And when I start a class with real estate agents, I say, you know what I really love about working with real estate agents? Because real estate agents are all independent contractors. They all run their own business. They're all on 100% commission. And I say to all of them in the room confidently, I said, guess what? You are making exactly what you're worth. You are generating the revenue every year, exactly what you're worth. I can't say that to some salespeople because they get really offended.
They cry
because, they feel like they got salary. Well, I need a raise.
Well, no
more.
If marketing would get me more leads,
update our website. I don't have my business cards. I need a flyer. All these
flyers
excuses.
are good.
Yeah. I need a new brochure. We deserve.
No, we need the price lowered. That's what we need. I could sell more. I could sell more if we gave it away too. We are accepting exactly what we tolerate. And that's right.
If we don't tolerate it and we're not going to accept it, we're going to generate more revenue. We're going to think better. We're going to act better. We're going to be able to generate greater results, but that takes commitment to do that.
That's right. Cool. All right. So that's take 100% responsibility. What's one that you like, Scott, or a couple that you want to talk about?
Chapter 2, be clear why you're here. I think that's really important. You can organize all your activities around why you are here. I think it's really important to play a role, and we all play different roles in our life. And the only way that you could ever be embarrassed is to be caught out of role. So if you know what the expectations and the obligations are for that particular role, and you can organize all your activities around them, you're not going to be embarrassed. So be clear about why you're here.
I think some people are frustrated because they've let life choose where they're going to be.
Yes.
Instead of making some decisions about where they want to be. And he talks about that is in the next one, decide what you want. What is it you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What invigorates you? And I think of and maybe this was in the movie Rudy. What are you going to do after high school? Oh, I don't know. I can get you a job down at the forge. Okay. And then you're down at the forge, and 30 years later, you're going, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And you've just done, well, you took the easy road is what you're doing there. You did what somebody said, I could get you a job at the factory, and you took it. And now you've done nothing different for 30 years. So again, your decision was to make no decision.
So number 3 is decide what you want. I heard this great quote. I listened to the Brian Buffini podcast. It's a great podcast. This is one of his quotes. I don't know the source of it. I do know the source of it. It was Walt Disney's brother. I think it was Roy Disney, who was the CFO of Disney. And he said this quote, when your values are clear, your decisions are easy. And boy, did that just ring a bell with me going, that is right on. When your values are clear, your decisions are easy. And think about the values that you have. Decide what it is that you want. And that's not easy. I struggle with that because I adapt to what my clients want. So what is it that I want? Well, I want to have more clients. So how do I have more clients? I adapt to what the clients want. I deliver the value the clients want. So I do struggle with that one, Bill.
Yeah. I think I have more struggle with principle 2, be clear why you're here. I do have good ideas of where I want to go in life. So the challenge is connecting what you want to do or what you want with how you're going to get it accomplished. And I think that's the challenge. So that goes into the believe principles. He's got 2 believe principles here.
Yeah. Believe it's possible is the first one, chapter 4. I love the story about him, Jack, working with a baseball camp and having the professional pros ask the kids to practice signing baseballs and to visualize that story of holding a baseball and signing your name to it. I heard this story about Harmon Killebrew, who played for the Minnesota Twins, and every one of his baseballs, his name is meticulously autographed on a baseball. He was not one of those, done in 0.6 seconds. He would write his name out very clear, and you could read it, and you knew whose baseball was signed, who signed that baseball.
Quick story on that.
Yeah.
Personal story. We're going to the Metrodome. My kids are maybe, let's say 5, 7, and 9. And it's a Sunday game at the Metrodome. And every Sunday they would have a player sign. So we get into the dome, and who's signing? Harmon Killebrew is signing, and nobody is in line.
Wow.
Because it's raining and nobody knows about it. And so I rush to the stand and I buy 3 baseballs. And he signs each of them, as you say, meticulously. Or and talks to each of my boys as he's signing them. He never signed fast because he was going to talk to the person. He wasn't trying to get as many done. And so it was just wonderful. But so the other part of that story is Michael Kadire it tells a story. He was autographing once with Harmon Killebrew and just slopping his name on the ball. And Harmon stopped him and he said, "These kids believe in you. Sign it so they can read it."
Wow.
And he said, I never forgot that. And I made a nice autograph and so the kids could enjoy it. So, but I think the whole thing that you're talking about is put yourself in that future place. Start to believe with all kinds of the little things that move you toward the future. And again, that's an important part of the sales process, is helping your client see themselves benefiting from your product, your process, your service, whatever you're going to do. You need to move them beyond, I got to sign the check, to I got to sign the baseball.
Yeah. Beautiful story. The last one, chapter 5, is on believe in yourself. And when I read this chapter, I kept thinking about the saying that people say to another person, says, you've got potential. And somebody said that to me one time. They said, "Scott, you have potential. I really see potential in you." And I was just hanging my head down, and I was a little saddened by that, even though they meant very positive intent with it. I was saddened by it. And I thought about it, I go, why does that just make me sad when somebody says you have potential? And I dwelled on it for a while, and I came to this conclusion. And the conclusion is that other people see greatness in me that I don't see in myself. And I don't have the courage and the guts to apply the greatness that I have inside of me outward, and to be able to share it, and to be able to emphasize what I'm really good at, my strengths. And that takes confidence to apply what you know. And when somebody says you have potential, it's like you're holding it all in and you're not sharing it. So when somebody says you have potential, think about it going, why don't you have the guts and courage to apply what you know? And that takes courage. And we need to have, courage and confidence. And I think the more prepared we are, the greater confidence we have. And I think we've talked about this in past episodes, but you have to believe in yourself.
Other people can help you believe in yourself. And your story reminded me of this. I don't remember who told it. Might have even been in one of the Chicken Soup for the Soul's book by Jack Canfield. But a very successful person, when he was in high school, one of his favorite teachers signed his yearbook with something like, "You have greatness in you that you don't even know." Wow. And he believed that. And because this teacher was so influential in his life, and he caught on to that, and that kind of was one of those things, as you said, he thought about over and over and over again. This person thinks I have greatness. And after he became successful, he ended up going back and finding that teacher to tell him how meaningful that was. And the teacher kind of chuckled a little bit. He said, "I signed every yearbook that way." He says, "Because I believe that everyone has greatness within them." I wasn't faking it, but for this individual, it meant something, and he was able to use that as a flame to build his life around. And we do have greatness within us if we can practice this belief in ourselves.
I remember a story similar to that when I was in the 6th grade. Mr. Denblaker handed out awards at the end of the year, and my award was most improved student. And that made a tremendous, profound impact on me, because at that year was the year that my parents were getting divorced, and there was a lot of uncertainty in my life. Nothing was predictable at all. And for a teacher to recognize that I improved over the year was only because of that teacher's influence in my life. And I didn't really know it at the time, but that was the one thing that was predictable. That was the one thing that I could count on, was that teacher, Greg Denblaker, at Sandburg Middle School.
Wow.
Many years ago.
That's a great story to close off the book club with. The segment is brought to you by The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door, by Steve Kloida.
I'm Ron Lehman, and I want to tell you about one of the best sales books I've ever read. The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door, gives you the tools and techniques to fill your pipeline and achieve more sales success. The author is Steve Kloida, known as the prospecting expert, and this book proves it. So if you want to learn from the master, get The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door. It's available at theprospectingexpert.com. Just click on the Buy Book button.
So today we're going to be talking about forgiveness. Now, this is probably not a chapter in most sales books. At least I've never seen it in sales books. But when I'm working with a salesperson, I hear about a lot of regrets. I hear about a lot of unsupportive beliefs. And I hear about experiences that they had in the past that they're continuing to carry forward. And one of the lines in the book that we're studying on Chapter 5 is, there is no useful payoff for blaming your parents for your current level of self-confidence. And it's easy for us to do that. Well, if my parents would have raised me right, then I would have had a better, more successful life. And I got to tell you, I think about that. Like I said earlier, I came from a divorced family, and my mother took care of the group, but I don't have a lot of experiences one-on-one with my parents, because there were a lot of children in my family at the time.
She was busy.
It's easy for me to blame my parents, going, if they would have taught me this, then I would be a better person. Well, we have to dismiss ourselves from our past, and we need to forgive our parents and anybody that had an influence on our lives. So I really found that forgiving others is like dropping 50 pounds of weight that I'm carrying around.
Yeah. I find that many people who blame their parents for their lives never had kids of their own. And that is, you figure out you don't know a dang thing, and you're going to make a heck of a lot of mistakes. And that's, I think that's the important part of forgiveness, isn't it, Scott? Is to understand that people around you are not perfect. They're making mistakes. And we hope that we're working with people that are sincerely doing their best with the gifts they have. They're not intending to hurt you. This is where we really get into forgiveness, is we give ourselves the best intentions and we place on others the worst intentions.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. I did this because I made a mistake and I'm sorry for it, and you should forgive me. Oh, wait, he did that on purpose and tried to damage me.
Right.
And when we have that attitude, it's going to be really hard to forgive. So at least give people the grace that you give yourself when you make a mistake.
Yeah, I heard a line quote, and I don't know who said it, but we judge ourselves based on our intentions. Others judge us based on our actions and what we do and what we don't do. And we need to be able to think about what kind of reputation we want to have, but reputation is grounded in character. And this is what John Wooden really talks a lot about, is character is the foundation of a reputation. And getting into forgiveness, I work with successful salespeople, and having conversations with them, they really struggle with forgiving themselves for their failures and mistakes. And in reality, successful salespeople should be debriefing instead of regretting. Debriefing a situation, and they go, boy, I felt like I screwed that up. And really think about it, dwell on it for a bit, and ask yourself, if I had a chance to do it over, what would I do different? That's debriefing. That's not saying that you did anything wrong. It's just an opportunity for you to be able to improve after applying something at the time that you thought may work. You might try something new. You got a response from it. Like Bill talked about earlier, you got a response response from it, is that the response that you wanted, or do you want a better response? If you want a better response, you need to change your actions, and you need to change how you apply the techniques within that particular event to get a different outcome.
Right.
Failure is not necessarily bad. It's feedback. But you really need to be able to forgive yourself and go, my intentions were good. If anybody came at you strong and said, I was really offended by what you said, I said, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. That was not my intention to do that. My intention was to do this, and I might have picked the wrong words. Will you forgive me? And then hopefully that other person will forgive you. Because if we withhold forgiveness, it's like having our enemy drink poison and for us to die, or for us to drink poison for them to die, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think this forgiveness issue goes into guilt also. Scott and I are both Catholic, and so we have kind of this a little bit of this guilt as part of our ethos that we grew up with. I have a lot of friends who are evangelical who want to say that guilt is a terrible thing. Don't ever feel guilty. I find guilt to be a very powerful, growing emotion. When I make a mistake, I should bear some guilt about that. I should bear some personal responsibility, enough that it will cause me not to do that again in the future. Whereas you say, forgive me. Okay, I'll forgive you if you don't go ahead and continue to make the same mistakes. So I use that guilt to help me get better, but I shouldn't allow that guilt to paralyze me to then say, oh, I'll never be good. I'll never be able, I'll never be worthy. Those things are not, are taking it too far to the point of feeling guilty all the time. No, I did wrong. I admit it. I'm going to learn from it. And now I can move forward. It's that debriefing that you're talking about. Yeah. What did you do wrong? How are you going to do better? Commit to not do it. You're probably going to screw up again. So don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, maybe.
But continue to try and get better in that area. So you have to forgive yourself of those mistakes enough that you can learn from them and move forward.
Right. I think another human motivation that we all have is that we want to be vindicated and validated. So we want to be vindicated for all of our past mistakes, and we want to be validated for our present performance. And that's human motivation. I think we struggle with guilt and greed, like you said earlier. And we've all heard that people are motivated by pain or gain.
Greed is good. I heard that from
greed,
Wall
for
Street.
lack of a better word, is good.
That's
greed,
right.
Gigi, Gordon Gekko. Love that movie.
Wall Street.
But, I also think that we live, as salespeople, we live in 3 time zones. We live in the
explain
past.
That. I saw that in your notes.
Yeah, we live in the past with regret. We live in the future with focusing on what we need to deal with right now, and we live in the future with anxiety. So we can't change the past. We certainly have a little control in the future. We do have some control in the future on how we respond to things, and if we plan and intentional, there are some things that we can control. But we need to really live in the moment to be able to determine what we can do in the future, and to not live in the state of anxiety. There's times where on Sunday night I look at my week and I'm like, God, how am I going to pull this off? I got rolled them over booked. I got very little time. Who scheduled a meeting at 12 o'clock? That's lunchtime. What am I going to eat?
There you go.
I just start to get all this anxiety about the week, when I go, just live in the moment, just take on what's in front of you, be there, be right where you are at the time. I think that's one of the chapters, be there and just to focus on your attention on where you need to be. Prepare as much as you can for the activity in the meeting and be there.
Well, the mantra I use is do what lies clearly at hand.
Okay.
Don't do the things that are on your C level on your list. Try to get to your A level. Do the things that lie clearly at hand, that you can say, okay, this is a project I can do this step on. I'm just going to do that. And the freeingness of that says, I can't worry about all the other things I have to do. I may not get them all done, but I can do this one thing. And I will get that done, and I will do that, and then I will move on to step 2. I think that's important. And I think, and I mentioned this a couple of shows ago, but I think it's also important. The quicker you can do the things that are distasteful in your day or your week, that phone call that you don't want to make, get it done. Your whole week will be freed up. Your mentality will be freed up. So go ahead and do those things. Don't put those things off because they're distasteful. So, but when you said we live in 3 time zones, this is interesting because when I look at we live in 3 time zones, the future, I live in hope. I don't live in fear. And I found that kind of interesting as a difference. Do you see a difference there?
I do. And, since you brought up our faith earlier, I really believe that if we apply faith to fear, then the fear is reduced. I heard a great quote from the priestess last Sunday, and I believe it was from Bernadette when she was digging the well at Our Lady of Lourdes. And she was digging in the dirt, and people walked by and just thought she was crazy. And she said, Mary told me to dig this. And everybody thought she was just absolutely crazy. And Bernadette said, when you believe in God, no explanation is necessary. If you don't believe in God, no explanation is possible. And you just got to have faith. And when you replace fear with faith, everything changes. And I'm self-employed, and I can't believe that I've made it this long and being self-employed, but it's only because of my faith and the gifts and the blessings that I've been given. I'm just truly, truly blessed.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to talk about with forgiveness?
Yeah, a few other things. Sometimes people are always struggling with, how can I forgive somebody if they haven't asked for forgiveness? Well, that's kind of your choice. Like I said, it's really up to you. And when you forgive somebody, whether they express remorse or ask for forgiveness, they do it or they don't do it, that's not something you can control. What you can control is you forgiving them and not carrying it forward.
I think, though, and you talked about this, should we forget? I don't think we should forget. And the reason is that sometimes people have shown themselves to be not trustworthy. And I can't forget that, I can forgive you for hurting me, but I can't forget that you did that and put that in the past. I need to be wary around you. So I had a situation. I was running a volunteer group. I had run it for a couple of years. Everything was on my shoulders. No one else thought about it until the time came to, put everything in action. And after about 3 years of doing this, one of the other parents decided that I shouldn't be running everything. And he wanted to run everything. So he really fomented people against me and, tried to take everything over. And I said, fine, if you want to take everything over. But and then he got mad at me for not helping him. So, I thought, I don't trust this guy anymore. And I talked to my priest about it, and he said, yeah, you can forgive him, but you don't need to forget, because somebody proves themselves to be untrustworthy. You need to be cautious around them. Some people are damaged, and so I think forgiveness is great, but forgetting would be uncautious. So I need to look at my behavior. What did I do to cause that? What did I do to help foment that? I'm not always, I can be a bull in a china shop when dealing with people sometimes. So I have to look at myself and see what I could do better. But some people just are a little unbalanced. So.
Yeah, we all have experiences in our life, and those experiences define a belief system. And unfortunately, in this culture that is in the U.S., this bias that is being thrown against us, and that our bias is wrong, is, I believe, a misdefinition of the word biased. We do create a bias based on experiences, and when we create experiences or we live experiences, we're going to be better prepared for the next situation. So we're going to have kind of a gut feeling about whether something's going to go good or a possibility of it going bad.
Right.
And it's because of those past experiences. So yes, we have bias, but our bias also protect us at the same time. Now, other bias that are destructive and discriminating, I mean, there's no tolerance for that. I don't think that should be tolerated at all. That's not the bias that I'm referring to. I'm biased is your past experiences creating decisions that you have to make in the future.
Yeah, I think you always have to be careful. Because I got hurt by one person doesn't mean every person that's like that or comes from that background or speaks that language is going to do the same thing. Every individual situation is different. And whenever we paint a broad brush on all people, we're going to get ourselves in trouble. Because we're going to form a bias that isn't deserved. That individual didn't do anything to me. Why are you putting that bias? We always have to give those people an opportunity to show their true nature.
Yeah, through their behavior.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, I should change my behavior to be more authentic as well.
Yeah,
good,
good stuff.
All right, resources. What do you have? I don't have anything this week. I gave away all my free presentations I was doing, so I was happy to do those.
One resource that I have is the first chapter in my book. It's on my website, mnsales.com, but I'll put a link to that on the show notes where people can read that chapter.
All right, great. So as we wrap up today, we have our golden nugget. I have 2 golden nuggets. I apologize. I stuck one in that you didn't know about.
No,
so
that's all right.
I'll give you a chance to look at it here. The first one is from Wayne Dyer. And this was actually, I mean, in this Canfield book, we're going to find half of our quotes because he's got about 10 quotes per chapter.
Yeah, he does.
So all blame is a waste of time, no matter how much fault you find with another. And regardless of how much you blame him, it will not change you.
Yeah, very true. What's your next one? Because
you got to go ahead. Do you have anything to say on that one?
I like this one. And sometimes when I hear a quote, it makes me think about another quote. And this one I heard the other day, and it says, "You can't change the people around you. You can change the people around you." I thought about that. I go, wait a minute, didn't you just say that? No, you cannot change the people around you. You can change the people around you. So pick better people, because you can't change the ones that are around you now. If you got bad ones around you, then, discard them and trade them in for good ones. You can change
Power of association, right?
Yeah,
Power of association.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. My second quote is because this gentleman died. PJ O'Rourke. If any of you know PJ O'Rourke, he was. I grew up on National Lampoon in my high school days and early college, and PJ grew up from being a ferocious liberal, I think, to being an independent. And he said, "Giving money and power to government is like giving whiskey and car keys to teenage boys."
Yeah.
And I think we are seeing evidence of that now. And if you don't rein in your government, you're going to get what you deserve.
Woo! Yeah, tax time too.
Giving money and power to government is like giving whiskey and car keys to teenage boys.
Yeah, boy, great quote. Great
All
quote.
Right.
I can picture that in my mind. So everything we talked about is going to be at winningatselling.com. So go there to get the show notes. Be great if you share this episode, if you liked it, if it's worthy to share on your social media feeds. Grateful, always grateful. Our listenership is going up. Which is
join
nice.
us on LinkedIn, and we put all of our podcasts links on there as well. Yeah. Next week, no book club, because we have a special guest, Ben Utecht. He won the Super Bowl, I think, with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Also played on the Cincinnati Bengals. So we are very excited to have Ben. We're going to devote the whole show to him. He does a lot on leadership, and he's going to talk about how salespeople can be better leaders.
Great guest. Inspirational. I've listened to Ben a few times, and I just walk away going, wow, that is just great stuff to apply. And luckily, we're going to have it recorded so you can listen to it more than once. But that's our special number 500 episode of Bill and I being.
Well, actually, it's our 100.
Number 500.
Number 500, but it's the 100th one Scott and I are doing together. Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.